Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. My name is Brian. We're at the finale of the big music list. Top 50 albums of 2019. Hopefully my dog is not barking in this video because I don't know if the audio is going to come through in the other video, but had to stop a couple times because my dog, love him to death, was just barking at something outside. So hopefully we don't have that issue. I'm going to have 5 honorable mentions. If I pronounce something wrong, guess what? I'm an idiot. I already know that. But I'm very excited. Honestly, I thought this year was kind of up and down with music, but once I put the list together, I was like, you know what? I think it was a good year. I think it was a really good year. And I think this was a really solid list. And I think you guys are going to like it as well. So we're just going to get into it. So with my honorable mentions, we have BUBBA, KAYTRANADA, Fine Line, Harry Styles, ANIMA, Thom Yorke, We Are Not Your Kind, Slipknot, and 2020 Richard Dawson. So without further ado, we're going to go through the first 25 quick, the second 25 a little slower, see how much fun we have. Number 50, we have Dedicated, Rae Jepsen. 49, we have A Quiet Farwell, 2016 to 2018 by Slauson and Malone. And number 48, we have the return of Flying Lotus with Flame McGraw. And at 47, as I joked in the last video, the 17th Weezer album to come out in the past 2 years, the Black Album, or the self-titled Weezer album. Number 46, we have Pyroclasts by Sunn. At number 45, we have Birth of Violence, Chelsea Wolfe. At 44, we have Charli with Charli XCX, or Charli XCX with Charli. I just screwed that up. At number 43, we have I Am Easy to Find by The National. At 42, we have the return of pop-punk group The Get Up Kids with Problems. At number 41, we have the return of FKA Twigs with Magdalene. At 40, we have Braindrops by Tropical F Storm, because I'm censoring it, but I'll probably cuss multiple times in this video. At 39, we have Ventura by Anderson .Paak. 38, we have I Also Want to Die in New Orleans by Sun Kil Moon. Again, I joke about Weezer putting out a bunch of albums. We got Mark back again. As always, I have to put him on here. At number 37, we have You Know What I'm Saying, Danny Brown, great experimental rap album. 36, we have Thank You Next, Ariana Grande, great pop album. Number 35, we have Jamie by Brittany Howard going solo from Alabama Shakes. And at number 34, we have Zoo, Denzel Curry, Can't Put My Man Into a Box. 33, we have The Haunting and Beautiful Ghostine by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. I know I probably just said that wrong because I know some people call it Ghost Teen, but I think it's Ghostine. Correct me if I'm wrong. Number 32, we have Titanic Rising by Wise Blood. And at 31, we have 'Cause I Love You by Lizzo. Detroit's Own. Number 30, we have The Fall of Hobo Johnson by Hobo Johnson. 29, we have The Origin of My Depression, super dark album by UBOA. Believe that's how you say it. 28, we have a surprising album that I really enjoyed this year, Amo by Bring Me the Horizon. 27, we have the late edition of the double album, Everyday Life by Coldplay. I just realized I said a lot of words there. And at number 26, we have Assorted Works by The World is a Beautiful Place. Sort of a collection of newer songs, older songs. And guess what? It was great. I was glad that they put out something, and I can't wait for their new album. 25 is Billie Eilish. When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? I literally do not know why I just fucking did that. The huge pop sensation from the year, Billie Eilish. Yeah, I really like this album. It's dark. It's weird. I think she's a great singer. I love how she has made such an effort of having a good voice, but all of her songs aren't her just having to belt out lyrics, because I think that's a big thing nowadays. I just like her production, and I think she's an interesting songwriter. So, really great album. 24, we have the second album of the year by Big Thief, Two Hands. I really liked UFOF, but the more I went back to it, I kind of started realizing, like, yeah, it's a little mellow. It's a little quieter. Two Hands, I really enjoyed. I think it was really solid. I feel like I was coming back to this album a little bit more than their first album that came out this year. So I definitely think that this is an album you guys should check out. 23, Assume Form by James Blake. Again, James Blake coming through with a really great singer-songwriter album. I love, again, the sort of experimentation on it. The features are great. Rosalia, Andre 3000, really, really good. 22, we have Coin, Chapter 4, Memphis. Matana Roberts, I believe, because I don't want to butcher her name, because this is one of the weirdest jazz albums I've listened to. Her spoken word on it, like, it's weird. It's like spoken word and really experimental free jazz and like, well, not free jazz. Well, I'm not going to say free jazz because honestly I have no idea about jazz, so I don't want to sound like I'm talking out my ass. So before you guys throw shade at me or whatever, yes, she put together a really great album and it definitely deserved a place on this list. 21, we have Hiding Places, Billy Woods, and Kenny Siegel. Again, I like Billy Woods. His solo stuff is one thing, but whenever he gets together with someone and puts together like a collab project, I usually like it so much more. Last year it was Arm & Hammer. This year it's with Kenny Siegel. Dark. His way of delivering lyrics is just, again, just weird and different and interesting. And I had a really fun time. Well, no, I didn't have a fun time listening to it. I had a not so fun time because it's really dark and it's really weird, but I really liked it. 20, speaking of weird, the weirdest collaboration of sounds ever with 100 gecs in their album 1,000 gecs. I don't necessarily know if I want to talk a lot about this album other than if you just want to listen to it, go listen to it and see if they're your cup of tea. They opened for Brockhampton, and my girlfriend and my friend Mandy and her boyfriend, they kind of all looked at me like I was crazy, but I'm like, I know I'm crazy, but I love them. I love them to death. And I thought their experimentation of sounds on this album was awesome and just weird. There's a ska song about a horse on the song. And the song's called Stupid Horse. That's all I want to tell you guys. Miami Memory by Alex Cameron is number 19 after my uncomfortable kind of fake laugh. Great singer-songwriter album. I didn't listen to Alex Cameron's last album, but I heard about him, so I really wanted to check him out this time. And I really liked it. I wasn't expecting the sort of off-kiltered production and off-kiltered lyrics. Like, he is very funny and introspective. As I said in the singles video, but I really enjoyed it, and he just sounds like he's from a different era. Like, he doesn't sound like he's from now. Like, he has such a unique voice and style, and I'm now excited to go back and listen to the rest of his albums. Number 18, we have There Existed an Addiction to Blood by Clipping. Again, I think the more they put out, the more I get into them. And just like their last album, I really like the concept. It's dark. I love the whole Halloween aesthetic from Nothing Is Safe. Sounded like a fucking like remix of John Carpenter beat from Halloween. But again, I love the production. I love the little interludes on the album. It's Clipping, bitch. That's all I have to say. I think this is definitely one of their more successful albums, and I think the more they do music, the more interested I am from what they do. They're great. I love them. Number 17, we got Bandana by Freddie Gibbs and Madlib. Definitely, again, not as good as Pinata, and I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, it's not as good as Pinata, but I definitely think I think Freddie Gibbs shows up in such a different way on this album. I think this album is a weird mix of Madlib getting more weird and Freddie Gibbs being like even more insane with his rapping. And I think it's a really good album. Really solid rap collab. Number 16 is Dog Whistle by Show Me the Body. This album is just punk as fuck. It's dark, it's heavy, it's just wild. Again, I kind of like that sort of music and I like those sort of groups. And this is an album that is just heavy and it just definitely just attacked my ears and just didn't go away. Did not go away. And I really liked it. Number 15, we got singer-songwriter Lana Del Rey with Norman effin' Rockwell. Norman effin' Rockwell. That wasn't funny. Anyways, I never liked Lana Del Rey, honestly. She just never was my thing. I always thought her music was very just like, wow, like she thinks she's so, kind of like the 1975. Like I thought, oh my God, you think you're so deep, whatever. But I grew to like the 1975, and I really like Lana Del Rey. This is a really good album. I think this is her best in terms of songwriting. I definitely like the stuff she was going over. I just think it's a really good album. And I definitely, again, like I can shut up about my hate for her because I can, give her all the praise in the world for this, because I really think this is a really solid album, really good album. 14, we have the self-titled album from Injury Reserve, obviously Injury Reserve. This is an album I went back and forth on. Like, I started really loving it, and then I kind of was like, but I think the more I listened to it again, I'm like, no, it's still a great album. Corona and Lime, Jailbreak the Tesla, Jawbreaker, Three-Man Weave. I think this album definitely encapsulates them in a lot of ways. They're quirky, they're experimental, they're deep, they're fun. I think there's a lot on this album that kind of mirrors back to their old albums, where they do the introspective tracks, they do just the crazy experimental bangers, and then they have also just the really out there songs. And again, I love Injury Reserve. Richie, Parker, and Groggs are all great. I love them. They're awesome. And I can't wait to see where they go moving forward from this, but definitely a great debut. Number 13, Gray Area, Little Sims. Again, this was an album everyone was freaking out over. I wanted to listen to it, and I liked it. I think it was definitely an album that had, when it comes to UK rappers, it's kind of a hit or miss for me, and I think Little Sims definitely got my attention more, and I think it was because of her delivery and just her vocal inflection and some of her wittiness that I caught listening to Gray Area, and I really like the beats she goes over. And again, there's certain parts of this album that either sound like modern takes on music, or like Selfish, like kind of the slow jazz inspired song, or like more of the hit bangers. It's not necessarily an album that's so experimental, but what she does is phenomenal on it. Number 12 is I Love You. It's a fever dream. Again, like I said in the singles, it's the tallest man on earth. It's the tallest man on earth, kind of going back to what he does. I can't hate the album. I really love it. I think the songwriting's great, and I think it's really, really good. So definitely check it out. Number 11 is an album I wasn't expecting to be this high up on the list, but it's All My Heroes Are Cornballs, JPEG Mafia. Really like JPEG Mafia. I really liked his last album last year, Veteran. It wasn't as high up as this one. This album, again, was the same thing where I listened to it and I was like, yeah, it's good. But then I started going back to it like a few months later, and I started finding myself to be singing a lot of it in my head. Not as much as his last album. And I think as I started listening to him more, the more I realized, I really fucking love this. I think he did something on this album that, again, is something that I throw into a lot of categories with a lot of people, which is there's those artists out there that make really experimental music, but it's also very catchy. I mean, his last album was the same way, but I think this album succeeded a lot more, because I think even the smaller interlude tracks worked more for me. And I cannot wait to hear this album on vinyl. And I can't wait to listen to this album again, because I definitely think this was I've been a fan of JPEG Mafia, but I think this album was more of a push for me than his last album. So definitely check this out. So top 10 time, guys. I always have a stroke before the top 10. Okay, number 10, Father of the Bride, Vampire Weekend. Great album. Return for Vampire Weekend. There is definitely a track or two that I think could have been cut, but I think that for the fact that they put 18 songs on here, it mostly works. I love the different experimentation on here, like something like Sympathy, or like Sunflower, or 2021, or again, like Harmony Hall, That's Life, Unbearably White, stuff like that. It's great. I love Vampire Weekend. They're back. I'm so happy. It's a great album. I love all the contributions, too, on the album from people like Haim, and, again, like Rostam doing some of the production still on here. Great album. Really good album. Number 9, we have Ginger by Brockhampton. I know a lot of people didn't like this album for sort of the slow, mellow R&B / sad boy vibes. I'll admit, I definitely wasn't a huge fan. I wasn't solely into it the first time I listened to it. It definitely grew on me a lot. But I think, again, for the group, I think, even though I love all the saturations, I think once they've been doing like Iridescence and Ginger, I think these are the albums that are starting to show their really true expressive sides and their more experimental sides, because I think we're getting more interesting music now. Again, I don't think the saturations are bad. I love all three of them. They're all on my top year-end list, and I still go back to them. But I think Ginger and Iridescence are definitely albums that they're doing more interesting things on. Number 8, Trust in the Life Force of the Deep Mystery. The Comet is Coming. It's hard jazz, and I love this album. Like, I just love it. It's not so long. It's not definitely like a Kamasi Washington album, but it's nearly, like 40, 45 minutes or so of just really punchy space jazz. Like, I love the compositions on here. I love the way this album's produced, and it's very gripping, very intense. Number 7 is my new obsession, Corey Wells, The Way We Are. I honestly think, other than maybe 2 songs on the album, I think this album's nearly flawless. It's what I look for. It's really solid singer-songwriter music. I love the acoustic vibes. I love some of the simplicity. I love some of the experimentation in terms of different lyrics, because this album, there's certain moments that feel like, oh, okay, I've heard this from other people. But I think with Corey Wells' voice, I think just with certain songwriting techniques, I think he stands out. I really, really enjoyed this album. I was listening to like half the singles for a long time because he put out a lot of the singles before this album, and it's just phenomenal, and I love it, and it's really, really good. Number 6, Guns, Quale Chris. If you heard me in my singles video, you heard me saying it here. This is me getting on the Quale Chris train. I was not expecting this album to be weird and experimental like I was hoping, because again, Everything's Fine was okay to me. This album was fucking awesome. Again, it's one of those albums where it's, from the surface, it hits hard and it has these really good vibes. There's sort of mellow vibes, there's dark vibes, but when you get into the lyrics, they're very, very introspective. They're very self-aware. They're hilarious. There's catchiness on here. Once in a while, there's an artist like this that comes out that definitely is one that's like, is definitely underrated, and Quale Chris is definitely that guy. He's super underrated, and I think this is an album you guys should definitely check out, and definitely one of the best album covers of the year as well. Number 5 is a mixtape, which is wild, because I don't know why they put mixtape on it. By the way, if you hear the dog's barking already. Number 5, Hi, this is Flume by Flume. I have really liked Flume for a while, and I think I've liked Flume for his catchiness and his sort of remixes and him working with other artists. This album is weird. This is experimental for Flume, and I was really into this album. I really, really, really liked it. And I love some of the passages. I love the JPEG Mafia feature. I like the remix with Sophie. I'm not a big Slow Tie guy, but I think whenever he's featured on something, I can kind of get into him. And I liked his feature on here. And also Brockhampton, but as well here. And yeah, really probably the best probably the best electronic album of the year, but also very experimental and very different for Flume. And that's what I was really intrigued by. Number 4 is Violet Street by Local Natives. Again, Local Natives are on and off with me. I heard their first couple singles, really liked them, got into this album. Just really good indie rock, indie pop. I think the production on here is really solid. I love some of the smoother vibes on like Cafe Armorio, and then some of the bigger stuff near the second half of the album, the bigger bombastic stuff. I just really liked it. And again, the songwriting's good, and I think a lot of the indie rock, indie pop vibes worked on this album. Unlike their previous album, which was kind of to me, and I think this album was a lot better. Number 3 is the rap album of the year. Yeah, I would say it's the rap album of the year. And that's Igor by Tyler, the Creator. Igor. I've been going back to this album all year. Again, this is an album like all Tyler albums where you first listen to it and you're like, God, the production's great. And then you listen to it again and you're like, God, the lyrics are great. And then you like, every time I listen to Tyler, there's more I get from it. And this album is so sad. It's so heartbreaking. And it's so funny to just see Tyler be so cool about, like, he basically came out and he's just like, I'm not going to just admit it. But clearly he's admitting it here with, like, some of the references on here. And just, again, like, the structure of this story and this love for this guy and this character he puts on, and the production on here, the bangers, the slower stuff, the features that kind of sneak in and sneak out. It's phenomenal. It's great. Tyler is just becoming otherworldly at this point. Number 2 is an album that snuck up a couple spots. This wasn't number 2 originally, but it snuck up by how much I listened to it. And that's I by Bon Iver. I think this is his best record since his debut. I think what this did was this took what he did on 22 A Million and really changed up, and I think he did different things with it, and I think he also I think this album is a big culmination of what he's been known for and what he's been doing lately and what he's going to do. Hey Ma, Naeem, You, Man Like, fucking Marion, Salem. This album, I think the like A Me is a great track. And then I think Holyfields and Weed, those are okay. But then once the rest of the album hits, it nonstop. So much on this album is just gorgeous. This album hits you like a fucking freight train. I love it. It's gorgeous. This is, like I said, easily his best work since his debut. I love it. But number one might have been a predictable one, but it's an album that I've been listening to all year as well. Morbid Stuff by Pup. Every song on here practically is a banger. I love it. I've been going back to it. I think this is their most well put together album. I think this has been an album they've been leading up to. I love their last album. I think this album is even better than it. I think songwriting wise, this is top notch. I think musically, I think this album just hits you in the face. I think the slower stuff is even really good too. There's so many different ways that they go on here. There's like that kind of weird heavy metal song, and then, you know, something, you know, that's a little bit more acoustic and balladry. And again, it's just such like full, you know, like just all the areas that they hit on this album is great. And again, it's once again one of those albums where like I just go back to. I think I listen to it every day. I listen to songs on it every day, and I think it's great, and I think it's awesome. And guess what? It's the best album of the year. It's my favorite album of the year. But what's your favorite album of the year? As we're done with the list, are any of these your favorite albums of the year? Do you like any of these albums? Or do you share some? Do you think there's different albums you like more? Leave it all in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had a lot of fun putting these lists together. Classic reviews and my top 20 movies list will be out in the new year. And I will talk more about that sort of stuff either on Twitter or in those videos. But again, thank you guys for getting through, again, the normal audio hiccups and me stuttering and all that sort of stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. Peace out, guys.